Welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, your host, Joanne. So happy, as always, to have you here. And if you've just found me, welcome. You may have found me because of the title of the podcast today, and it's something that you're looking to explore. We're going to go on a 4-week deep dive into each phase of our cycle. I know that I've spoken about cycles before on the podcast, but it's kind of the backbone of what my podcast I set out to do. Educate women, to empower women, to inspire women to look at their own bodies, to understand their own bodies, to use their own bodies to step into a world where they are in control. You cannot be in control of your own world if you are not in control of your body. You don't understand your cycle. You just, bleed and you don't really understand what's going on. You know that it's coming and it might be a dot on your calendar, but you're not in control of everything else. Don't have that connection with, okay, this is where I'm at in my cycle. This is how I feel. This is how I can grow. This is how I can use this and step into my creativity. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to do that. We're going to deep dive into each phase. So if you're new here, or if you've not heard of the phases, or you're not quite sure, I'm going to help you. So an average cycle is 28 days. I'm going to use average cycle for the sake of the podcast today because it's just easier for the maths, easier for me just to work out. And I truly believe that our infradian cycle, so our 28 days, has been damaged, I guess would be the word, because of modern life. We're in artificial light a lot. Our diets, we eat more processed food. We don't exercise in the same way. We're working 9 till whatever, however many hours a day that you're working. And of course, it's going to affect us. I truly believe, and I know there isn't a lot of science behind this. I also think there's a bit of a conspiracy there to hide the science behind this, that we did used to be connected to the moon. And I have podcasts on this. I don't know how anyone can argue that it's just a coincidence that our cycle is 28 days and the moon cycle is around 28 days. I've got podcasts on that. Maybe I'll do another deep dive into that, but we're going to stick with the 28 days today. So I'm going to be talking about how we can use our cycle to improve our wellness, our self-care. I'm going to be talking about how we can use our cycle to improve our creativity, to improve our work-life balance, improve our relationship, to maybe even manifest and make more money. I'm also going to include how and deep dive into the spirituality, the power of our cycles. I'm going to start with winter. So I did just say I was going to explain the 4 and I went off on a tangent. So our cycle can be split up into 4. So the 28 days split up into 4. We have our winter, which is our menstrual cycle, which is our menstruation, this is our bleed. This is when our body is releasing. This is when we see the blood, we are bleeding. Once that is finished, we come into our follicular phase, which is our inner spring. So imagine flowers blooming, everything is growing again, everything is getting ready to do its job, which, whether we want it to or not, is to create life, to have a baby. Our cycle is geared around that. Everything we feel, everything we think is all geared to finding a person to make that happen, again, whether we want it to or not. So once we've had our bleed and we've gone into our spring, we then have our summer, our ovulation time, when we feel amazing. And we use the inner seasons because they do reflect exactly how we feel. So when we're in our ovulation, we may feel like we're raring to go, we're full of energy, it's the high time to get things done. We then come into the final part. It's a full circle. We come into the premenstrual part of the cycle, or our luteal phase. Everything starts to drop off. Our body realizes that, the egg is not being fertilized. So our hormone levels drop and we feel like crap. And then we come back into our bleed. And then we go again and again and again until we reach perimenopause and menopause, and then we have a whole wide world of power to step into there, which again, another podcast, otherwise this will be hours and hours long. Starting with our inner winter, so I'm going to start at the beginning. When you go to the doctors and the doctor asks you when your last period was, I used to try and work out the last day of the bleed. When was the last time I had anything there? And I would give a rough guess. It's actually the first day of our bleed. Now, depending on, there are some books I've read and podcasts that I've listened to that people go differently. However, in the doctors, in medical, they class day one as your bleed. So when you're going to the doctor and they ask the date of your last cycle, that is what you give them. They ask that as well because our cycle is our fifth vital sign. We are so lucky as women to have this power that shows us, tells us, gives us a huge shout and a scream when things are wrong. They ask that because if you were to say to them, oh, I can't remember, then that's a big red flag. They need to go and investigate what's going on. This is why I track my cycle, and I'm so grateful every time it comes because I know that everything is in working order, and I know it's a blessing in disguise. Yes, it can be annoying. Yes, you might think, oh, I don't want this. However, thank you that we have this within us to show us. So as soon as it's slightly off, as soon as it doesn't feel like it should or like it usually does, then you know your body's trying to tell you something. And again, this is why, and I know I've mentioned this before, being on synthetic hormones, so the contraceptive pill and injection, whatever is masking that. You cannot tune in the same way if you're having or taking something synthetic that's covering that up. Now, that's everybody's own choice. My personal choice is to not take any of those. I like having the connection with my body, but just be aware that if you are on the contraceptive pill, that those signs, and it might be more difficult to tune into. It might be more difficult for your body to let you know what she needs because it's kind of masked. Imagine that she's got like a thing on her mouth. She can't shout as loud. I'm going to go through winter, and I have a list here of the natural powers, and I'm going to use the word powers because that's exactly what they are. I believe, from just my own feelings and readings and learning about magic and witchcraft, that this is the bleed, our inner winter, our menstrual phase, is the most positive part of our cycle. It's the most powerful, it's the most magical. It is when we are on it. Listen to these powers that we have: detachment, inner connection, effortless presence, stillness, expansive awareness, restoration, bliss, acceptance, forgiveness of self and others, receiving love, intimacy and union, experiencing all life as sacred, ecstasy, envisioning, inner guidance and instruction. The whole cycle, everything begins and ends with our menstrual phase. Life. It has to, we don't have life if we don't have the cycle. And if we have a cycle, there is no life, if that makes sense. It is the pinnacle of our cycle. I would say that this phase of the cycle as well is our permission, is the phase to drop down tools, to relax, and to do nothing. This is the time for rest, repair, and renewal. Interestingly, though, I have spoken to other women who, when I would advise to rest, that they say that they're full of energy. They work out the most here. They feel like they can lift heavy weights, and that is okay. That is your part of your cycle, and it might be that for you, that is your body craving that self-love, that self-care, giving you that little extra push. I would say, if you can, and if this resonates with you, use this time to completely de-stress, to completely tune in. If you meditate for longer. If you don't meditate, try it. Lie on your bed, close down your eyes, try to reconnect with yourself. Hands onto your womb space, and just be. I've recently started, and I know I've chatted about this before, I'm still not on to using my menstrual blood as a face mask. I am intrigued by this, and I know I've mentioned it. I haven't done it yet. What I do is, because I use a moon cup, I like to see my blood, I like to see my bleed, and I put it in the water, mix it with water, and I water the plants with it. And this is one ritual that I like to do, and it makes me feel connected to my garden. I am a green witch, I'm a nature witch. I need to be out in nature, I need to feel that connection. Otherwise, I feel like I'm stuck, I'm blocked. At the moment, I think today is 45 degrees outside. It's hot, it's humid, it's sticky, and I really start to feel that I'm losing my connection. Yesterday, I was looking online for things to do and places to go in the evenings for the full moon because I need that connection with the garden. But using my menstrual blood, I'm not bleeding, I'm a new moon bleeder, but using my menstrual blood does keep that connection. Still quite new to me doing this, and I know some people are grossed out by it, some people are intrigued by it. Keep your eyes peeled for the face mask. I'm just not quite there yet. Love to hear from you if you have done that, by the way, because I've seen it with a few people online, and I'd love to know if if there are any positives to it. And I found a nice little quote here, just going back to our winter. Menstruation is the engine room of your power, the ultimate antidote to procrastination. It's the prime time to plant the seeds of your intention for the coming cycle and beyond. And I love that. And I know, just sticking with the garden there, but this is the time. This is the time if you need to do something that you can pause. Use these words, let me bleed on it. If someone wants you to do something, go somewhere, ask you to do something, and you're not quite sure, bleed on it. Use this time to plant those seeds. Use this time to reflect, really tuning in to see where you want to go and what you want to do. Treating this as, amazing, the power of the cycle here, that it's like having a new year every 4 months, every 4 weeks, sorry, not 4 months. Same as when we use the moon. The new moon is a time of new beginnings. The full moon is a time to release and let go. Same with our bleed. The bleed is a time for us to plant those seeds, to let go of anything that we don't need, those things that are holding us back, those things that were in our last cycle. We let that go. Our bleed is our body detoxifying, letting go of the things that we don't need within us. Our bleed it's like a call to retreat, and you may start to feel this if a couple of days before. So for me, it's actually maybe 8 or 9 or 10 days 10 days before start to feel my ovulation. I really spike when I get to my ovulation, and then I drop. I'm on a massive come down, and I have a couple of days, and these are the days, Thursday, Friday. So today is Saturday, the 22nd of June. So Thursday, Friday this week, I was tired. I napped in the afternoon, I went to work in the morning, came home, had to nap, I listened to my body, but it's a tiredness that I can't explain because I still slept. I'm sleeping in the evening, it doesn't disturb me that way, but I have this intense tiredness. I also start to feel a little bit teary. For example, adverts on the TV might bother me, or I was watching the Osbournes and Ozzy Osbourne made me cry because he said something nice to Sharon. Then I start to come down. Once I get my bleed, I even out. So again, I'm doing this podcast using the averages, and in that case, I'm not quite average because once I bleed, I start to wake up again. So it's the time before for me. You might be different. You might be, once you get your bleed, you need to curl in and retreat and relax. Listen to your body. You may feel this intense, just like I have these past couple of days, need to stop, need to slow down. Listen, follow your body as much as you can. If you're one of these people that are still full of energy, go with it, but with caution, because there's a lot going on inside, and our hormone levels, we don't want to push too far. Whatever we're doing in each phase of our cycle is preparing us for the next. Yes, you may have loads of energy when you're in your bleed. We also need to conserve that energy for when we hit our follicular phase, when we're in our spring. So making sure that we're always sort of one step ahead of ourselves of, okay, this is coming up, I know that this is going to happen within me, inside me. So when you're on your bleed, you know this is coming. So I'm just going to slow down. I'm just going to relax. And that's okay. Let yourself do that. Take your menstrual bleed, your holiday, your red holiday. Go and see friends. Watch a movie. Watch Netflix. Hundreds of years ago, we would have gathered in those red tents, we would have been together, we would have released together, we would have spoken about it. Find a friend who's in sync with you. I was reading actually online the other day about there's a name for it and I've completely forgotten it. Bleeding into the earth. Again, I haven't done this yet, but women gathering together in a tent outside and bleeding together, just allowing it to run down their legs. And again, some of you might be listening to this thinking, oh my God, when I first read it, I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure about that. Opening the door to the postman and, he sees everything. I'm in a place for that, but it's owning it, it's being proud of it, and it's letting it flow. So some of you may or may not know this. Our menstrual cycle, the bleed part, we're still in the winter for today, also has an extraordinary secret. But we can also step into a natural high when we are bleeding. And I encourage you to go and try this. I encourage you, it's a meditation, it's nothing crazy, it's no drugs involved. Lie on your bed, close down your eyes, and just allow yourself to focus on your womb space. Allow yourself to absorb, allow yourself to, when I do this, I feel into just seeing my womb, seeing what's going on in there, and being truly, truly grateful that, first of all, everything's in working order. I'm so happy that this is here. Bring your magic, show me the magic. And it does work. And you go from feeling heavy, dull, awful, bloated, sad, depressed, whatever words you want to use that for your cycle, into having this great appreciation, having this natural high around who you are and what your body is doing. So go and try it. And I know you're probably listening to this thinking that's the last thing I want to do, but please, please, please. And if you do, again, let me know. I'd love to hear, because when I first learned about this, I was like, absolutely not. I'll lie down and fall asleep. After, I was like, yeah, I'm a woman, I'm bleeding, this is amazing. My body does these amazing things without me even asking it to. We don't have to program it. It's showing me that I'm healthy. Amazing. It is amazing. Things for you to think about, things for you to do when you're in your inner winter. Claim your space, let go and rest, nurture yourself. I'm just going to share this because I know I've already mentioned, I'm in my autumn. I think I have about a week left to go. Obviously recording my podcast now as I'm talking. My podcast editor is probably thinking, Jesus, what is she talking about today? I keep forgetting all of my words. Now this is another thing that happens to me around this time. Is why it's so important to let go, to rest. However, I don't have any time today or this weekend to record the podcast, so I'm doing it now. But there's a lot of edits today. Thank you to my amazing podcast editor. And just a bit of the background there, because I've got my notes. They're really, really scruffy. I can't understand my own writing. And I just feel like this is summing up why in my winter next week, I will be slowing down. I will be taking a break. I always take a day off social media when I'm bleeding, because nobody, we don't need that in our lives when we're bleeding and we're trying to focus on ourselves. And I have another quote here. Let's see if I can understand my handwriting. This is the ultimate moment to say no to the world and yes to yourself, so that you can do remarkably little. Value the power of doing nothing and just let yourself be. Rest, rest, and rest a little more. It is the only time that we are and we can really give ourselves permission to rest, to look after ourselves, to reflect. I would say here is the best time, and I'm going to do this in the next couple of days, to journal. And like I've already said, treating this as we go full circle, a death and a birth. We're letting go of all of those things that we don't need. What has held us back over the last 28 days? What has bothered us? What has got in the way? What's upset us? What can we just release with this blood? And at the same time, what can we grow? What seeds can we plant? This is a new cycle. This is a new start. This is a fresh start. What do we want to step into? And I actually did a little bit of this yesterday. So it's a summer solstice, it's a full moon as I'm recording. So this will be out the week after. But it was a really nice time to reflect. And I ovulate on the full moon, I bleed on the new moon. For me, my journal exercise yesterday was a really good reflection, not only because I was obviously reflecting on the last 6 months, but really tuning into what I need to let go of. I really used it as a practice, and I encourage you to maybe try the same next time you have your bleed, to focus on, I'm not going to call them weaknesses, but those barriers. And I know I talk a lot about positivity and being amazing and stepping into your strengths, but sometimes we do have to look at those things that we're not very good at. We keep just repeating the same things over and over again and expecting different results, and nothing different is happening because we're not doing anything different. And it was a really good exercise for me because I was like, right, I'm 6 months into the year. Yes, I've done all of this stuff. Yes, this is all amazing. But there's these little things that just keep popping up that I need to release. And when I come into my bleed next week, these are what I'm really going to focus on. Use the next few days to get clear on those so that I can really grow and step into the next 6 months. Hopefully you can see there where I'm using my bleed, my winter. I'm using the moon there as well. So the full moon, the summer solstice, and then coming up to my bleed. And this really allows us as women to have this cycle that we can recover, reflect, make changes, move on, instead of the thing, we're told like New Year's resolutions, blah, blah, blah. No, we have the opportunity to do this every single month with our bleed, with the moon. Let's take it. Let's use this magic. And this is where the magic of the moon really comes in. This is where our power comes in. This is a powerful magic thing that we have, that we can do this every single month. No offense to men, they have their own cycles, and they have their own powers. But for women, this is what makes us powerful. This is what sets us aside from men. This is what makes us different. Why it's so important. And again, I'm going off on a tangent here. I have lots of quotes as well today as I was planning. Another quote for you here. Your body's ability to de-stress depends on downtime, and downtime at menstruation is one of the most effective and efficient ways to soothe and repair your nervous system. So this is where I would encourage the women who may feel like they have a lot of energy during their bleed to just use this time to still de-stress, to still slow down, to still rest. Give your central nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, a little relaxation. We don't do it often, especially if you're working 9 to 5, you're a mother, you have things going all of the time. Use this time. This is a huge permission slip. No one's going to argue with you if you say to them, I'm bleeding, I'm going to go for a lie down, or I'm bleeding, I'm going to go for a meditation, I'm going to go meditate, or I'm bleeding, I'm going to go for a walk. In the ideal world, we'd have the first day off work, whether we needed it or not, just so we could have this time to ourselves in a woman's world. But we don't live in a woman's world, do we? We live in a man's world. Treating your bleed as a call to rest and getting that while you can. And I know I speak to a lot of mothers, and they feel like they cannot get that time. But please try, make it, you need to speak to your family, speak to your partner, speak to your kids. You need this 5 minutes. You can't get it in your house, take yourself out of your house, take yourself for a walk, get in the car, go to the shop, whatever it is you need to do that gives you that time. Leave work for 10 minutes earlier and go and park up and look at nature. And I know you're probably thinking, oh yeah, right, whatever, Joanne, but try it. Now, menstruation can also be a difficult time. Women who may suffer with heavy bleeds, cramps, anxiety, depression, anger, suicidal thoughts, feeling as if you're going crazy. This again is why it's so important to tune into your body, to allow yourself that rest. And if you do have any of the things that I've just mentioned and it's debilitating to you, and please go and see your GP. Try and avoid, if they try and offer you synthetic hormones, ask for other things. Ask for a counsellor, ask for someone to speak to. If you don't get those things, reach out to me. I will gladly try and help you through meditation or yoga, movement or coaching, because we don't want to mask these things. We don't want to just take a pill and make it go away. What we want to do is learn why it's there, what's going on, why are our hormones, that's a sign of a hormonal imbalance. So if that is happening, then there's something not right, something's out of balance, and we need to look at that. So take that time. And finally, let's just end it with making time for your menstruation, making time for your bleed. If you're listening to this and cycle tracking is new to you, this is where you need to start. Next time you get your bleed, track it, write it down. This is your day one. You know it's there. Then on day one, take your 5 minutes, find a small way at some point during the day to make time for yourself. Those things that I've just said: walk, take the bins out, go for a little walk, go for a drive, leave work 10 minutes early, speak to your family, have a bath, whatever it is that to give you that time, that self-love, that self-care, so you can really tune in. Take a moment to find that natural high. Close down your eyes, tune into your body. Imagine you could see everything just flowing inside of you, tuning into your womb space. Move more slowly. So taking those time, if you usually go to a high intensity class, spinning, maybe try a yin yoga online at home, light some candles, light some incense, whatever it is that you can do just to show yourself that love. I'm going to end our deep dive into winter there. I hope that it's made you feel more connected, giving you that permission slip to really just tune in and enjoy your period. And trust me, you can get to a place where you can enjoy your bleed. And I think every single woman should aim to enjoy it. I do. I don't dread it when it comes. I actually, when it's here, I'm like, yes, I'm healthy, everything's fine. I can go and water my plants. I can go and give them what they need, use the magic from my menstrual cycle, and really step into my power. So next week will be your pre-ovulation, your spring. So we'll be deep diving into spring. So I'm going to keep these 4 one after another. So yeah, tune in next week to learn about your inner spring.